Well, hello there, gang. Welcome to the 30. This is your host, Patrick. And if this is your first time watching a 30, hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. For those that have been my regulars, just thank you for being here on this another episode. If you haven't seen any of our previous episodes, make sure that you catch them. Go to our YouTube channel. You can find that under the Jackman Group LLC. The Jackman Group LLC is actually our sponsor and our producer of this show. I am your host, and we do this each and every week where we bring some dynamic guests where we speak about specific topics, whether it's leadership, whether it is entrepreneurship, small business, or something that is important and exciting. Tonight, I'm excited because I have a fellow nerd. Shout out to the nerds out there. Woohoo! Yes, nerds. Whether you are a nerd or a cool person, you are going to like tonight's episode because we're talking about data. How can we bring data into our lives, have a meaningful and compelling part, whether it's your business, whether it's a program, or whether it is your life. So it's all about data. Make sure that you are here. We'll be right back. So let's get this party started. Again, we welcome you to the 30 on this week. Today, we're going to be talking about data. How do we make data cool? How do we incorporate data into our programs or into our business or into our lives? So whether or not you are a cool person or like myself, a nerd, today's episode is for you. I am going to bring none other than Elizabeth Grimm. She is the founder and consultant of Elizabeth Grimm Consulting. And Elizabeth, welcome to the 30. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Patrick. Thanks for having me. I'm ready to get up and dance after that musical intro.
Wow, that's fine. Come on now. Don't. I said the nerds are going to be here, you and I, right? So we just want to make sure that we also bring in the cool people. Let them know that nerds can also have fun. Is that right?
We can.
All right. So tell our viewers who you are and what you do. We met, I think it was last year.
Yeah.
We met on a program. I can't remember. I think it was through StreamYard. Was it?
Yeah, we met through Main Street Networking. I believe it was last December, I think.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. And I said, got to have you on the show. So it took us a while, but you're here now. So thank you. So tell our viewers who you are, the company that you represent, and what you do.
Sure. So as Patrick said, I'm Elizabeth Grimm, and I am a puzzle book and nature loving evaluation nerd. I'm all about embracing this nerd identity. I describe myself as a professional question asker. That's basically what I get paid to do, is ask a lot of questions and raise insights. I also sometimes joke with my clients, as I am the founder and principal consultant of Elizabeth Grimm Consulting. I joke that I'm a bit of a data therapist. And so what does that mean? That means I coach organizations to be confident, curious, and clear about their data. So I know that not everyone joining us here today might be as much of a nerd as Patrick and I. Maybe data is frightening or overwhelming or a little off-putting to you. But I believe that we all have a little bit of a data nerd inside of us, and I coach organizations along their data journey and experience to make everyone excited, or at least a bit more excited, about how data can impact the services they're offering, the programs they're running, and how they're impacting their communities.
Awesome. So when you say data, how do you define data? What does that mean?
Patrick, we only have 30 minutes. I mean, that's a big question. So I say data, and sometimes I just say information, because data, again, can sound really off-putting. We think big statistics and maybe running a lot of fancy statistical models or in a scary computer programming language. But I really mean information. What
Okay.
information are we taking in? It could be a survey. It could be a focus group. It could be case notes if you're running a social service program, or maybe it's social media metrics if you're doing a marketing campaign, or maybe it's funding and financial records. It can be anything, testimonials. All data is information. It's just another way of saying information. And I think when we start to think about it differently, well, I know when we start to think about it differently, then it becomes a little less overwhelming, a little less scary, because we're all bringing in information from the things we're reading and listening to and exploring every day, regardless of what part of our life. So we don't need to put data in the scary black box over here. We're taking it in every day with what we're looking at on social media, what we're reading, what we're listening to.
So what got you interested in this world of data and information?
I have always been someone who's really interested in puzzles, in math, in how things work, especially how the brain works. And originally, I thought I was going to be a neuroscientist. And that's the journey I started down when I was an undergraduate. And then a lot of different life experiences happened. And I realized I didn't want to collect data and do research and run numbers, crunch numbers in isolation behind a desk to publish information. I wanted to use information in service of communities, in service of people and organizations and equity. And I didn't know what that looked like for a really long time. It wasn't until I was in grad school, I was getting a dual degree in social work and public health, and I was taking this visualization class. So how can we make all of our charts and graphs look informative, cool, pretty, all of that fun stuff? And everyone in the back row was asking all these really great questions. And I said, those are my people. I don't know who they are, but they're my people and I need to know them. And it turns out they all worked for the university's evaluation center. And that's when I realized that there was this whole field called program evaluation that uses data, can use data in service of equity, in service of communities. The goal isn't necessarily to publish a research article. It's to collect information to do our good work in our organizations, in our programs better. And that applied sense is really what spoke to me. And it's what continues to excite me about this work today.
Awesome. So if you look at your profile of clients that you have now and clients that you look to speak with, to collaborate with, what is the profile of your typical client or your right fit client?
Sure. Most of my clients have been and currently are foundations, state agencies, and nonprofits in the social services and public health sectors. However, I will really have a conversation with anyone who's interested in doing things differently. So I want to work with the change makers, the disruptors, the good troublemakers who are really willing to ask those big, audacious questions and are willing to explore how we might use information to better serve our clients, our customers, and our communities. So as long as you have a openness to exploring and questioning and are willing to sort of challenge maybe some of the dominant narratives in how our organizations work, then I am open to collaborating.
Great. Now, you, in terms of clients, are they large? And you said non-for-profit. Are they, what's the smallest client that you work with? And what's the largest client? You don't have to give names, but in terms of data,
so
numbers.
I'm working with some small, mostly Head Start programs, early childhood programs right now. So those are smaller teams, more localized programs. And then really helping them build out a data strategy. How do we align our data with our vision and our values? And what questions should we be asking? What should we be collecting? And then how do we put all those pieces of the puzzle together to really communicate to funders, to partners, to families participating in the program about, their experiences. And then I work with a couple pretty large and national foundations who they have much larger much larger budgets, much larger, their staffs all over the country, to again help them figure out what questions should they be asking, what are some of those meaningful insights. And then with a couple of them, we're getting to really play around right now with what designs and data visualizations make sense to put that package together and tell their story.
And you started your company. How long have you been in business?
I'm about to have my 1-year anniversary, which
Oh,
is unbelievable.
nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So I had been working full time and consulting on the side as a freelancer for about 6 to 7 years. And it wasn't until last year, last April 9th to be exact, that I sat down at my computer and said, Elizabeth, you've been setting a lot of fake barriers in your way about taking this leap of faith and launching your own company. It's something I'd been wanting to do for about 7 years. And I filed for my LLC, and a couple weeks later, I gave notice at my full-time job. With, at that point, all my contracts had ended. So I gave notice with no clients and just trusted that the universe was going to provide, and that if I really believed this was the right move, then it would work out. And so far, I am very blessed that it has been.
Great. So you took the leap that most people are afraid of taking. They want to take it, but it's something in them that's saying, I'm not sure that I should. But you took it. And have you looked back ever since?
I have not looked back. I've been putting up these fake, some were real challenges. I was wondering, can I create a steady stream of financial income? How will I get health insurance and other financial benefits without working for a full-time company? But other things were just silly problems that I was putting in my way. I don't have a flashy company name or a logo. I need to have one of those before I launch. And I thought, you can always change that. This is not a real problem. You're inventing a problem. And if you really believe in this, you should just jump. And I started asking people in my circle, what do you think? Should I do this? Should I not do this? And when I start asking externally for input on my own life and my own decisions, that's when I know something's out of alignment. And I probably just want someone to give me permission for what I want to do. We see this a lot of similar challenges in data work too. And it was that point where I sat down and said, what's your gut telling you? And my gut said, you need to take this leap of faith. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, you can always find another job.
There you go.
If it does, then you're going to have the flexibility and freedom, to really take on the types of clients and projects that excite me. And that's been the reality ever since. So it's been great.
Great. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a 30-second break. I'm going to come back, and I want to talk with you about your services. And then I want to also talk about how can you, from the Jackman Group, what can we do as far as data to help drive our business forward? And then we'll take any questions that may come up. If you have any questions or comments for Elizabeth, go ahead and drop them in the comments box, and we will make sure that we bring them while live. So 30 seconds, and we'll be right back. I am with Elizabeth Grimm. She is the founder and principal consultant of Elizabeth Grimm Consulting. And we've been talking about data. How can we use information, AKA data, to help move our programs, our businesses, or our lives forward? So one of the things that we want to talk about now is some of the services that you offer.
Yeah. So at Elizabeth Grimm Consulting, I work at this intersection of learning, evaluation, strategy, and design. And so, in the traditional sense, sometimes evaluation projects will be very transactional, where someone swoops in, collects data, writes a report, gives you recommendations, and then they go back to work with another client. And I find that that can be a frustrating and challenging experience for everyone involved, because so much of data, so much of information is contextual. It's relationship and trust focused. And so I like to work one-on-one and do group coaching with organizations where we can really spend time building that relationship, building the trust, and then saying, what are our expectations? What are our assumptions that we're making about how we do our work within this team, within this company, within this organization or program? And then how can we align those visions and values with the data we're collecting and tell a better story? So most of my work is this group coaching, where we'll create a package of a number of different sessions based on your desires and interests and goals and budget. And then we'll weave in different topics around collecting data, creating a data strategy, creating data visualizations. I also do workshops and trainings around, shocker, data topics. So things like demystifying data visualization. What is data visualization? How do we make our charts and graphs more informative, more impactful? Asking meaningful questions. So how do we collect better information on surveys, or what sorts of considerations should we be asking ourselves about the types of data we're collecting? How to create a data culture so that folks aren't afraid of data and all see themselves in somewhere along their data journey and trajectory. So
Wow.
there's really not a one size fits all model. I try to customize the offerings based on what an organization needs, and we go from there. But so much about the work is this relationship building and thinking about alignment and values, because that's at the heart of how we all make decisions.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes folks will call me and they'll say, I need a new database. That's why my data isn't making a difference. It's why it's not speaking to people. Or maybe I just need a flashier report, and that will help get me more funding or speak to the community and the impact of our program. And when you start peeling back those layers a bit more, what we find is that maybe they do need those things. Maybe they do need a new database. But first, you need the database as the house, right? For the information. It's
Hmm.
not the information. So you need to start asking your questions of, are we collecting the right information? Does this align with even what we're offering? Does it align with what we want to be talking about? Are we disaggregating at enough intervals that we really can tell about context, about the types of people and communities that we're working in? And all of these decisions impact that story you're able to tell. So a lot of, even though people might come to me for the end goal, the report, that they want a database or something, almost probably 99% of the time, we end up taking that step back and saying, actually, we need to engage in purposeful learning and asking meaningful questions and establishing a clearer data strategy before we can jump to that storytelling piece. But the storytelling piece is always, it's how you put it all together. And that's usually the second piece that we work on. So it's kind of these bookends of planning and then putting the puzzle together in a compelling way.
That's great. So one of the things that you mentioned is your workshops and your trainings. And we got a question here from Chelsea that came in. Are your workshops and trainings open to the public to register, or only to regular clients? Great question, Chelsea. Thank
Sure.
you.
Yeah. So right now I'm doing workshops with regular clients, and then also if a group asks to bring me in. So I don't at the moment have, for example, an ongoing webinar series where anyone in the public can sign up. I have a few things in the works that I'm playing with for the next year, but right now none of that is live. But if a group is interested in holding a workshop, certainly always open to a conversation about what might fit best for that organization's needs, and we can craft a proposal together.
Awesome. So let's look at the Jackman Group. So you know what we do, right?
Yep.
And after our training, well, we do a pre-training survey and a post-training survey. And depending on the week, we may do, if we have a cohort, like one that we have for 10 weeks, after each week, we will do a survey. So what can we do? What can you do in terms of recommendations or suggestions that may help us to get more data? And then how can we interpret that data for efficiency and effectiveness?
Yeah, so I know at the Jackman Group, you all are really interested in improving productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness, like you just said. So I would use those three pillars as a guidelines for every type of question you're asking.
Hmm.
Is the question on this feedback form going to be in service of those ultimate goals? And then you can start to piece out how you tell that story. So a typical way, if we did a training evaluation or if we did a survey, for example, people collect the data and then how do they report on the data? They say, question one, we saw this, question two, we saw this, question three, we saw that, right? And instead of doing it that way, I would wonder if maybe grouping the types of responses based on those main pillars that your organization is working towards: productivity, efficiency, effectiveness. How are those questions and the findings from those questions aligning with your ultimate goal? And now the point of storytelling is to combine data, visuals, and a narrative. So when you're putting together a report, for example, maybe on your workshop series,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just reporting on the statistics, and maybe change over time. It's really putting in some graphs that pull out the key points. Use color intentionally, where maybe you put your brand color, a blue popped out, for example, and gray out some of that background noise so the reader can really see what's most important. And then weave in that narrative, weave in the comments that the training attendees are saying and those testimonials. You don't always have to even present every single piece of information either. Just because we collected it doesn't necessarily mean it all has to go in the report. So I would think about using those pillars as the guidelines and how all of that can kind of shape and make sure that, do we need to ask all these 10 questions, for example,
Hmm.
on the survey, or is that not as important? How are we going to use this information? So the whole reason we gather information is to make decisions.
Right.
So if we're not able to make decisions based on the information we're getting, then we need to go back and ask ourselves, are we asking the right question? Are we not collecting the information in the right way? Maybe we need to have a community conversation instead of a post, workshop survey to get more nuanced level of information. Or maybe we didn't disaggregate. Again, this is for the big data nerds, right? Maybe we didn't disaggregate the data at the level that helps us make a decision. So I'll give you one example. I
Mhm.
once worked with a program and they had a multi-year offering, a multi-year program. So teachers enrolled in this program for 2 years, and we were analyzing the data at the beginning and the end of the 2-year program. We're like, this doesn't make sense. We're not seeing any changes. Why does that not align with what we're hearing one-on-one from teachers? Like, something is going on here. What we found is we actually started breaking out the data. That's what disaggregation means, breaking it out in a different way by some sort of factor or category. So we looked at we looked at the change that happened in year 1 versus year 2. And what we found was the program was making a difference in 1 year, the first year, but not as much in the second year. And so then we have to say, well, why? Do we need a 2-year program there? Should the program maybe be focused on 1 year? Or what is it about the first year that's really moving people forward?
Hmm.
And I think often we're looking at data, we're writing reports for a couple primary purposes. Grants, we need more money. Or 2, we need to report to some sort of funder or federal or state agency, right? And when we're working in that reporting structure, again, our relationship becomes very transactional with data. We're running up against timelines and resource limitations. When we build this sort of process and looking at data regularly during monthly staff meetings or things like that, we're able to ask those more meaningful questions and dive a little bit deeper. When we're working on that time crunch and within a boundaries of one specific report, we don't get to play as much. And I know, again, I'm saying data and play in the same sentence. So
Yeah.
hello, nerd, we know. But we need to have the luxury of time to start to really ask those questions and apply the learnings that we're seeing.
Now that's great, because we take information in terms of surveys and we look at it and says, okay, was the content, so some of the questions alone, was the content good? How good was the content? Was it relevant? Was it impactful? From our facilitators, how were they? What were the most impactful, the least impactful, right? So we want to get all that information so that we know what we need to change, but we also need to report that to our client.
Yep.
So you're saying group it and make it a little bit more sexy.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and again, you can incorporate visuals, pictures of your training, and all that, icons. I'm a big fan of adding icons, as long as you're using them consistently. So maybe you have a certain, I think you might even have this on your website already, a certain icon for trainings, a certain icon for different offerings. You can always use that same icon in your communications when you're talking about that too. That's a fun strategy. And people really like icons. They connect with icons. They're less scary than just a percentage if you're putting them in front of someone. But using this approach where we're combining data and visuals and narrative, you don't need to do it just because I'm saying you're doing it. What we know is that humans are natural storytellers. That's how we've been passing information down since the beginning of time. And so research suggests that when we add these components and we add a story, it increases memorability, persuasiveness, and engagement, versus if you were just to show a percentage in isolation. So if you're grappling with this idea, why should we engage more of this narrative, visual, and data? Why should we kind of merge these three pieces together? I would just encourage you to think about some fact that you learned at some point in your life that made a difference. And when you think about that, think about why. And I'm guessing it probably wasn't because someone put just one number up on the screen. It was probably because someone told you a story about their personal experience or someone they know and how that experience impacted their life, their community, their family. That's what we want our data to be doing. That's the effect we want our data to have on other folks. And we can do that, but we can't do it when we work very quickly and when we sort of dive into this hustle culture mentality. We do need to take a step back so that we can explore, ask questions, and acknowledge the tensions and contradictions that will naturally arise and not be afraid of those.
Wow. Elizabeth, this time is gone. This is fascinating stuff. We could go on and on forever, but you got to promise to come back, because I want to learn more and dig a little deeper about what you do, because I know you do a lot around social justice and all the things that you do. Talk about what you do. You love outdoors and camping. So you have to come back so that we can talk a little bit more and dive into not just the data side, but also more in terms of what you do outside of that. How about that?
That sounds great, Patrick. I would love that.
So to close out, a couple of things. One, how can someone get a hold of you?
Sure. The best way is to go to the contact page on my website, elizabethgrimm.com. And there you'll find my Twitter, my LinkedIn, and my email address. So please reach out if you want to learn more or just want to connect. I would love to meet you.
All right. I'm going to put your email address up here if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Elizabeth at elizabethgrimm.com. Make sure that, or you can go to her website, as she said. And what's the website again, Elizabeth?
elizabethgrimm.com.
All right. So make sure that you touch base with her. I enjoy this. So this is just not for nerds. It's also for the cool cats out there, cool men, cool women, right? Everyone that's cool. Data can be your friend. Right? Information is all about information. So Elizabeth, any last words that you would like to tell our viewers?
There is a last word, Patrick. As you were talking, it reminded me that data is just people. Pretty much every data point represents a person in a lot of the work we do. And that's why I'm excited about this work, because I'm in the business of helping people and communities. And when we think about information as people and not just these isolated numbers and statistics, I think that's when we can bring everyone on board, data nerd, data lover or not, because at our core, we're all here looking for community, looking for connection.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm not going to let you leave without doing this. We do something called rapid fire. So I'm not going to let you leave until we do that. So I'm going to ask you 3 or 4 questions and I'm going to ask you to just say it out, your responses quickly. Last
Okay.
book you read?
The Venice Sketchbook.
Okay. Never heard of that one, but I'm sure it's a good one. Favorite place to vacation?
My family jokes that it's always the last place I've been, and that was Death Valley National Park, and it was incredible.
All right. Your favorite food?
Tacos.
Tacos. Okay. Fair enough. Your favorite TV show?
It depends on my mood, but one TV show I'm really sad that ended is Private Practice.
Okay. Favorite type of music and favorite artists?
Favorite type of music? I've been a long-time country fan, and I like jazz. The artist I'm going to mention is neither of those. I love belting it out to Adele in my car, in my apartment.
Awesome. So Adele. Cool. Well, Elizabeth, I want to thank you once again for being here. Fantastic. Finally, you're under 30. It took us a while, but you're here. So thank you so very much. I look forward to our future conversations. And if I can help, let me know. I'll definitely be reaching out to you from the Jackman Group side for you to help us in terms of how can we increase our information that we get and how can we better serve our customers with the data. So thank you for that. All right. We'll chat
Thanks,
soon.
Patrick. Thank you.
Okay. So we've been talking to Elizabeth Grimm. She is the founder and principal consultant with Elizabeth Grimm Consulting. Make sure that you reach out to her. Go to her website. I also give you her email address, elizabeth@elizabethgrimm.com. Make sure that you touch base with her. If you're interested in data, if you're interested in really getting information, as she said, and really looking at it and taking a deep dive and telling stories, make sure that you contact her. So that's about it. I want to thank you for this week. We look forward to another great conversation next week. So be safe, right? Be safe. Have a great time. And we will see you next week. Be blessed. Make sure that you and your family be blessed. Peace. We'll see you next week.